in James River in Virginia, with Blackbeard's head still hanging at the boltsprit end, and 15 prisoners, 13 of whom were hanged, it appearing upon trial that one of them, viz. Samuel Odell, was taken out of the trading sloop but the night before the engagement. This poor fellow was a little unlucky at his first entering upon his new trade, there appearing no less than 70 wounds upon him after the action, notwithstanding which he lived and was cured of them all. The other person that escaped the gallows was one Israel Hands, the master of Blackbeard's sloop, and formerly captain of the same, before the Queen Anne's Revenge was lost in Topsail Inlet. The aforesaid Hands happened not to be in the fight, but was taken afterwards ashore at Bathtown, having been some time before disabled by Blackbeard in one of his savage humours, after the following manner. One night, drinking in his cabin with Hands, the pilot, and another man, Blackbeard, without any provocation, privately draws out a pair of pistols and cocks them under the table, which, being perceived by the man, he withdrew and went upon deck, leaving Hands, the pilot, and the captain together. When the pistols were ready, he blew out the candle, and, crossing his hands, discharged them at his company. Hands, the master, was shot through the knee, and lamed for life. The other pistol did no execution. Being asked the meaning of this, he only answered by damning them, that, "if he did not now and then kill one of them, they would forget who he was." Hands being taken, was tried and condemned, but just as he was about to be executed, a ship arrived at Virginia with a proclamation for prolonging the time of his Majesty's pardon to such pirates as should surrender by a limited time therein expressed. Notwithstanding the sentence, Hands pleaded the pardon, and was allowed the benefit of it, and was alive some time ago in London, begging his bread. Now that we have given some account of Teach's life and actions, it will not be amiss that we speak of his beard, since it did not a little contribute towards making his name so terrible in those parts. Plutarch and other grave historians have taken notice that several great men amongst the Romans took their surnames from certain odd marks in their countenances, as Cicero from a mark or vetch on his nose. So our hero, Captain Teach, assumed the cognomen of Blackbeard from that large quantity of hair which, like a frightful meteor, covered his whole face, and frightened America more than any comet that has appeared there a long time. This beard was black, which he suffered to grow of an extravagant length. As to breadth, it came up to his eyes. He was accustomed to twist it with ribbons in small tails, after the manner of our Romilly wigs, and turn them about his ears. In time of action, he wore a sling over his shoulders, with 3 brace of pistols hanging in holsters like bandoliers, and stuck lighted matches under his hat, which, appearing on each side of his face, his eyes naturally looking fierce and wild, made him altogether such a figure that imagination cannot form an idea of a fury from hell to look more frightful. If he had the look of a fury, his humours and passions were suitable to it. In the commonwealth of pirates, he who goes the greatest length of wickedness is looked upon with a kind of envy amongst them as a person of a more extraordinary gallantry, and is therefore entitled to be distinguished by some post, and if such a one has but courage, he must certainly be a great man. The hero of whom we are writing was thoroughly accomplished this way, and some of his frolics of wickedness were so extravagant, as if he aimed at making his men believe he was a devil incarnate. For being one day at sea, and a little flushed with drink, "Come," says he, "let us make a hell of our own, and try how long we can bear it." Accordingly he, with 2 or 3 others, went down into the hold, and, closing up all the hatches, filled several pots of brimstone and other combustible matter, and set it on fire, and so continued till they were almost suffocated, when some of the men cried out for air. At length he opened the hatches, not a little pleased that he held out the longest. The night before he was killed, he sat up and drank till the morning with some of his own men and the master of a merchantman, and having had intelligence of the two sloops coming to attack him, as has been before observed, one of his men asked him, in case anything should happen to him in the engagement with the sloops, whether his wife knew where he had buried his money. He answered, "that nobody but himself and the devil knew where it was, and the longest liver should take all." Those of his crew who were taken alive told a story which may appear a little incredible. However, we think it will not be fair to omit it, since we had it from their own mouths. That once upon a cruise they found out that they had a man on board more than their crew. Such a one was seen several days amongst them, sometimes below and sometimes upon deck, yet no man in the ship could give an account who he was, or from whence he came, but that he disappeared a little before they were cast away in their great ship. But it seems they verily believed it was the devil. One would think these things should induce them to reform their lives, but so many reprobates together encouraged and spirited one another up in their wickedness, to which a continual course of drinking did not a little contribute, for in Blackbeard's journal, which was taken, there were several memorandums of the following nature, found writ with his own hand: "Such a day, rum all out, our company somewhat sober. A damned confusion amongst us, rogues a-plotting, great talk of separation. So I looked sharp for a prize. Such a day took one, with a great deal of liquor on board. So kept the company hot, damned hot, then all things were well again." Thus it was these wretches passed their lives, with very little pleasure or satisfaction in the possession of what they violently take away from others, and sure to pay for it at last by an ignominious death. The names of the pirates killed in the engagement are as follows: Edward Teach, commander; Philip Morton, gunner; Garrett Gibbons, boatswain; Owen Roberts, carpenter; Thomas Miller, quartermaster; John Husk, Joseph Curtis, Joseph Brooks one, Nathaniel Jackson. All the rest, except the two last, were wounded, and afterwards hanged in Virginia. John Carnes, Joseph Brooks 2, James Blake, John Gills, Thomas Gates, James White, Richard Stiles, Caesar, Joseph Phillips, James Robbins, John Martin, Edward Salter, Stephen Daniel, Richard Greensail, Israel Hands, pardoned; Samuel Odell, acquitted. There were in the pirate sloops, and ashore in a tent near where the sloops lay, 25 hogsheads of sugar, 11 tierces, and 145 bags of cocoa, a barrel of indigo, and a bale of cotton, which, with what was taken from the governor and secretary, and the sale of the sloop, came to £2,500, besides the rewards paid by the governor of Virginia, pursuant to his proclamation, all of which was divided among the companies of the two ships, Lime and Pearl, that lay in James River, the brave fellows that took them coming in for no more than their dividend amongst the rest, and were paid it not till 4 years afterwards. End of Section 9. Recording by Tysto, tysto.com.